Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us today. It feels like just yesterday, and I say this all the time on the show, that Donald Trump announced he'd be running for re-election for this 2024 cycle. We are now officially 1 week away. 1 week from tonight, we will have an idea, hopefully, of who our presidential nominee will be. Hopefully, we don't have a repeat of 2020 where we have to wait a few days for the votes to be counted, we'll say, or found, or, whatever belief system you want to believe. Hopefully at the end of tonight, next week, a week from today, we will have a decisive winner. Over the weekend, President Trump was in deep blue New York City, Madison Square Garden. And I was there along with our guest who's going to be joining us in just a moment here. And it was perhaps one of the most unbelievable things I've ever seen in my life. In fact, let's bring him in right now. He's John McLaughlin. He's President Trump's pollster, leading GOP pollster. John, MSG, I have season Knicks tickets. I go to probably 20 Knicks games a year. I've been to many concerts. I'm sure you have a few years on me. You've probably been to some wilder concerts than I've been to. But nonetheless, John, it was the most unbelievable. And we were there for hours. We had to get in, I think Secret Service told us by 12:30. We didn't leave until 8:30. Every single speaker, star-studded speaker. Yeah. And we didn't leave until 8:30. And 90% of the people stayed there. I saw some people leaving early, but it was like elderly people who had to get out, beat the rush a little bit. Your thoughts, if you could relay to the audience what took place in Madison Square Garden on Sunday night.
Well, that was the mother of all Trump rallies. I've been to Trump rallies before. I've campaigned with him during the primary when they had me flying around Iowa with him in freezing cold weather. And people would wait for him to show up when we were delayed by weather or whatever. Hours. I've seen it where people packed thousands of people would wait 5 hours for him to be there. Well, and I've been to other rallies where President Trump, I was the one in Nassau County where they had out there where people would wait all day. They'd camp overnight. And, this rally was the mother of all Trump rallies. It was like Willis Reed coming out there for the Knicks to win the championship. And I told President Trump, I said, New York is the media capital of the world, not just the United States. And here we are in deep blue New York, where the most famous arena in the world, where presidents and champions have held court, and he was there, and he's phenomenal. What's driving the Democrats crazy this week is President Trump is not coming off as a better president than Kamala Harris would ever be.
Right.
Has been Biden's understudy for the past 4 years. He opened up the sale at Madison Square Garden. We're asking people, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And, reminding them how high inflation is. And you want 4 more years of that with Kamala Harris. Do you want open borders, tens of millions illegal immigrants? Do you want rising crime? Do you want endless wars? He basically made his case this week that's critical when most Americans are going to vote in the battleground states. Most Americans will be voting. A lot of them are not waiting for election day, and they're getting their friends and families out because this is such a historic election and a historic choice. But that place was rocking, full of patriotic Americans, full of people that you got to see personally. How they had lines of tens of thousands of people waiting to get in democratic New York City, and it was a diverse crowd. It was we're not just talking about a country club of Republicans. We're talking about working men and women who wanted to see their president because they know what the stakes are in this election, and they want Donald Trump to be president again. And for us, the polls right now, we've never been in such a good position, but it's close. So, we got a lesson back from 2012 where, Mitt Romney was ahead in the national polls in the final week, and he took it for granted, ended up losing to Barack Obama.
Yep.
So we can't let that happen. We've got to finish this out and get all the voters out there. We've got to every day. If they have early voting, don't just vote yourself, but get your friends and family out. Get somebody who doesn't usually vote, who would vote for Donald Trump. Get them to the polls. Get them to vote early. Get their absentee ballot. Get it in the air, because we have to have the election, as President Trump says, where our win is too big that they can't rig this. So
yeah, you're absolutely right. It was fun. The lines, I mean, wrapped around, they're down 34th. Anyone who's from New York or been in New York City, you've probably been to 34th Street. I mean, lines 10 feet wide, wrapped down around the corner. And, I walk in, I was with Lou Dobbs's wife, Debbie, a beautiful, great woman. And I took my father to rally, my best friend. We're walking down the street and I see John McLaughlin. I look at John. I say, "Oh, maybe I can go in with John or something." And John looks at me and goes, "I got to get in this slide." So I knew right then and there that there was no playing around. That this thing was the real deal. And we get on this line, and John, myself, Lou's wife, we're all walking down 34th Street. We're trying to find the end of this damn line. And I said, "Where the hell is it?" I immediately get on. And I start texting with Trump's assistant, and I'm like, "We're never going to get into this damn thing." And we were part of a special people line, which I was scared to imagine what the regular general admission line was, because it was unbelievable. I want to tell a quick story. A lady is sitting in front of us, an elderly lady. She was with her husband, tells the story. She was married to her husband for 50 years. They got up and they left a little bit early, and I figured it was just, she was an elderly lady. They wanted to get out and beat the rush. And one of the people, I guess it was one of her children she was with, looked back and said to us, she said, she's got 6 months to live. This elderly lady who was sitting in front of us, she has lung cancer. The only thing she wanted to see before she died was President Trump. And it brought a tear to my eye and sunk my stomach down. With 6 months left to live, this is what you cared. And this lady was up. She was cheering. She was electric and more vibrant than most of the people there who, weren't dying. It was just sad. But that's what President Trump brings out in people. These aren't just regular. They are regular, hardworking Americans, but these people are devoted to MAGA. I think it was Trump Jr. or Eric. I think it was Eric, actually, who said this is a family. And he's absolutely right. The MAGA family is something like I've never seen before. John, you've worked many presidential elections. Have you ever seen the enthusiasm, the family-like aspect that we see in this campaign through this MAGA family?
No, because this is truly unique in American history. And it's like when President Trump won in 2016, I did tell him that, he was telling me it's a huge election. I said, no, we only won by 78,000 votes out of 139 million. I said, and he said, well, it's a big electoral victory. I said, no, Obama had more.
Yeah.
Quiet on the phone. I said, no, but this is historic because you beat the Republican establishment in 2016, right, and then you beat the Washington establishment. And they've never forgiven us for that because he represents the heartland of America. This is our blue-collar billionaire who's fighting for the working men and women against a system that's rigged against us, where they exploit us. They lower our standard of living with inflation. They raise our taxes. They send our children to go fight these endless wars. And, and he's the guy standing up for us and saying, no, it's enough. And, he's building this coalition of working men and women in the heartland of America, where they come from the Sun Belt and the Rust Belt. Yep. And we're winning record levels in the polls, but we got to win it at the election, of Hispanic voters for Republicans, of African-American voters for Republicans, Jewish voters for Republicans. But we have younger voters now. We have to win the election because so much is at stake for the country, and it really is historic in terms of the levels of support that he has. And and that's what you're seeing with these people. They're coming out from at these rallies. People, they drive RVs, they camp out, they get there overnight. People in New York City were taking the trains and subways from all the different boroughs to get in there. What you saw was something that the Democrats can't replicate. I mean, they can fake it where they say Kamala Harris will go to Houston and say, oh, she's got Beyonce there, and everybody expects her to sing. When Beyonce doesn't sing, they all leave. They're not showing up. It's like Kamala Harris can't hold a candle to President Trump. Nobody ever elected her. She didn't win a single primary or caucus. And she was handpicked to, be the candidate of basically the Washington elites when they realized, Joe Biden would lose. Yeah.
So, people came from everywhere. I had a cousin who flew up from Florida. Your brother came in from DC for the rally. People came from everywhere because it was John, it was the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen in my life. There were some statistics and numbers that I saw that these people on Twitter, they do this analysis of people who go to Trump rallies and people who go to Kamala rallies. I believe there was 100,000 people in the vicinity of Madison Square Garden. Apparently only 20,000 were allowed in. Okay.
Right.
47% of these folks had never been to a rally before. Almost 50% of these people never been to a rally before. I mean, the numbers are unbelievable. But John, you never get the truth reported on it because you have a corrupt media. Midway through the rally, the Washington Post is reporting Trump rally. They're on racist tangents against Kamala Harris and this and that. I want to take a quick break here. When we come back, I want to talk about the media and how complicit they've been in causing violence and division in this country. They often say it's Donald Trump who's the violent one. He's the racist. He's the xenophobe. He's this and that. But he's never shown any sort of trait like that would exhibit any behavior that would suggest he's that kind of person. So it makes zero sense. I want to take a quick break. Coming back with GOP pollster, Trump pollster, John McLaughlin. Stay with us.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving us with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss. I'm going to make it your gain. For the first time ever, you get standard classic MyPillows for wholesale prices, only $14.88. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Only $14.88. But it gets even better. For a limited time, I'm going to offer my entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Upgrade to a queen size MyPillow for just $18.88. King size only $1 more. Get my body pillows for $29.88 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on the screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever on TV, including my standard size MyPillow, only $14.88. They've never been offered this low before. We have limited quantities at this price, so limit's going to be 10, and once they're gone, they're gone.
We're back. We're talking with leading GOP pollster John McLaughlin, great friend of President Trump, polls for President Trump, and he does an excellent job at doing so. John, if you weren't at the Trump rally this past Sunday and you were watching, let's say MSNBC, let's take a listen of how they were covering the rally that we were at.
But that jamboree happening right now, you see it there on your screen, in that place is particularly chilling. Because in 1939, more than 20,000 supporters of a different fascist leader, Adolf Hitler, packed the garden for a so-called pro-America rally. A rally where speakers voiced anti-Semitic rhetoric from a stage draped with Nazi banners. When a Jewish protester rushed the stage, the Associated Press reported, quote, instantly, a dozen or more stormtroopers set upon him, knocking him down and beating him as he held his head in his arms. Most of his clothing was torn from his body. Later, he was booked for disorderly conduct. Now, against that backdrop of history, Donald Trump, the man who has threatened to use the military against opponents he calls enemies from within, who has threatened to use the troops to quell what he says are lawless cities, and to use those troops to carry out mass deportations of immigrants, is once again turning Madison Square Garden into a staging ground for extremism.
I mean, John, that was unbelievable. You know, I didn't see many flags there. The only flags I actually saw there were Israeli flags. Correct me if you saw something different. But the only flags I saw flying anywhere on the upper levels or in the crowd was Israeli flags. Explain to me what they're talking about, because maybe I fell asleep or something. I didn't think I did.
By the way, you couldn't bring in flags because they'd have poles and stuff like that, and the Secret Service doesn't let you. Finally, they're stepping up and they're protecting Donald Trump, precisely because of that deranged rhetoric that you just heard from the biased MSNBC people. Because what they said, first of all, J.D. Vance destroyed Jake Tapper on that quote about using the military against the American people. Yeah, there is no such quote. The enemy within, he has talked about, you know, we've got terrorists in this country. We've got people that are our enemies of the United States.
No, we have the deep state who sought to undermine a presidency. I mean,
yeah.
And kill a political opponent.
Yeah, and he was talking about in a separate quote. He was talking about using the military to protect the United States, like from riots and the kind of Antifa stuff we went through. He was the one, Trump, on January 6th had recommended 10,000 National Guard to protect the Capitol, and Schumer and Pelosi told him no. So in those cases, he would use it. But it's just so bizarre because they're losing on, in the battleground states, more voters are favorable to Trump than Kamala Harris. More voters approve of the job Trump did as president than Kamala Harris. And what can you do when you're losing your argument? Has to resort to calling your opponents fascists and Nazis because they're patriotic Americans? I mean,
racists.
Yeah, and racist. I mean, it's like just the name calling. It has to end. Look what they've done to this country and the division. And we're the ones, when President Trump survived an assassin's bullet by the grace of God, Trump voters didn't riot. They didn't cause any damage. They asked for more Secret Service protection of our candidate because we want to make sure that he can be elected president. He's been the leading candidate for president over the past year over Joe Biden and now Kamala Harris. And what do? They don't give us enough Secret Service protection. They tried to knock him off the ballot. They tried to put him in jail. They tried to confiscate his wealth. I mean, basically America is looking at this election and say we have to get him elected. And you're seeing record turnouts of early voting in not just battleground states. New Jersey, I was talking to President Trump about this. New Jersey, in the first day, the number of Republicans almost equaled the number of Democrats in that state. Wow. And President Trump said to me, I think we can win New Jersey. And I was like, I hope so, but we got to win a lot of other states too. So, but it's there right now. You're watching basically the American people rise up and say, we're tired of being exploited. We're tired of being taken advantage of. Whether it's not just our tax dollars and standard of living with inflation. They're taking our jobs, right? Yep. He's talking about, again, tariffs on China, tariffs on countries that take our manufacturing jobs. In Michigan, we may win Michigan because it's down to a debate about who's going to protect the auto industry and the truck industry that Michigan survives on. That's the state's economy. It's not just, the tens of thousands of union worker jobs in the plants that remain there, but it's also the state's economy. Could you imagine Michigan without being the auto and truck capital of the world? I mean, why would you have Ford based there or GM based there if you don't protect their jobs? And Kamala Harris is for the Green New Deal that would mandate electric vehicles that would come from China, that would be assembled in Mexico, and it would just kill our auto industry to have that kind of government mandate. And that's what it's about.
You mentioned Jersey, and I just want to tell the audience a quick story. I have a friend who was working on President Trump's advance team in 2016, and President Trump had looked at my friend and said, so-and-so, we're going to win Michigan. And everyone, and you probably know this,
right?
We're going to win Michigan. And my buddy looked at him and said, hopefully. And they all looked at each other like, we're not winning Michigan.
Yeah.
President Trump was probably the only person on his team who actually had the belief that they were going to win Michigan. He ultimately wound up winning Michigan. So when you talk about New Jersey, I was talking with Mark Mitchell last week, the pollster for Rasmussen, and we were talking about the governor race with Jack Ciattarella against Murphy. Now, this was after COVID, so people were probably a little bit mad at Murphy for all the bad things he did to Jersey. But now, if you put up a candidate, and I tell this all the time, I used to beg Lou to run for that governor's race in New Jersey. I begged him, and he wanted nothing to do with it. He hated politics, hated politicians, wanted nothing to do. And I go, Lou, it's a race you can win. You can go move to the governor's mansion, take your horses with. He wanted nothing to do with it. Jack Ciattarella, a person nobody had ever heard of before, nobody outside the political realm knew who the hell this guy was, almost beat Bill Murphy in deep blue New Jersey. So President Trump thinks he can win New Jersey. I maybe give him a little bit of chance. The guy's been pretty right about something. He was in New York on Sunday, for God's sake, so he thinks they have a chance of that. You're the pollster here. I don't want to hear your opinion on it because it's probably that he can't win New York, which is
I agree that he could win New Jersey against Joe Biden. It was a toss-up, and we were likely to win. But Kamala Harris, they've given us the media, national media has done, since she was handpicked, she's got 90% positive press from the mainstream media. We've gotten 90% negative press in spite of the fact that, he survived an assassin's bullet, et cetera. But the voters in New Jersey appear to be pretty smart. And, the early voting seems to be going our way. We might just produce an upset in New Jersey. But right now, we've got to focus on getting voters out and proving our point. We can't.
You better not be too pessimistic on it, John, because if he does win New Jersey,
you'll be the next pollster.
This is the last election President Trump is going to run. He's going to need a job after, so you better be careful. He might decide he wants to come out and be a pollster. Well, go ahead.
Well, by the way, it's like you could see that. I don't know Jack personally, but he didn't embrace Donald Trump. And also the Republicans in Washington then didn't support him that much. Phil Murphy outspent him by a ton of money. But who knows? Who knows who may enter the race in New Jersey after November 5th? But the key thing is we've got to until November 5th, we've got to get the votes out and get Donald Trump elected.
Yeah, Giro is definitely a total rhino. There's no doubt about that. It actually makes me think yesterday, on Sunday rather, out of all the speakers, and I mean, it was a star-studded line. You had everyone from Hulk Hogan to J.D. Vance, Elon Musk. Elon Musk's mom was there. Melania Trump. The only person there who got any sort of boos or any backlash was none other than Mike Johnson. And I heard a lot of people yelling, "Rhino, Rhino, Rhino." The voters know what's going on, John. I think some of these politicians think they're a little bit smarter than they are. He was the only one who got any sort of backlash. And it made me sick sitting there behind Mike Johnson, watching him, President Trump talk about policy, and Johnson going like this, when I know damn well deep down in my heart and in my head that Mike Johnson's a rhino and he's going to stick to his rhino agenda. So I'm hoping President Trump, puts the pressure on these people to do the right thing. We're going to take one more quick break here. When we return, I want to go into some of these polls, the Senate races, congressional races, some final numbers from the presidential race, and one more divide. We obviously have the media divide in this country, and the Republicans have the divide with the rhinos. But it seems that there's a new divide brewing, and it's between the moderate Democrats. Yes, I said moderate Democrats because there's not really that many anymore, and the Marxist Dems, and how they're sort of pushing these moderates to the right side. We're going to take this up with John McLaughlin. We're coming right back. Stay with us.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving us with a ton of extra My Pillows. But you know what? That's their loss. I'm going to make it your gain. For the first time ever, you get standard classic My Pillows for wholesale prices, only $14.88. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Only $14.88. But it gets even better. For a limited time, I'm going to offer my entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Upgrade to a queen size My Pillow for just $18.88. King size only $1 more. Get my body pillows for $29.88 and multi-use My Pillows for only $9.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on the screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever on TV, including my standard size My Pillow, only $14.88. They've never been offered this low before. We have limited quantities at this price, so limit's going to be 10, and once they're gone, they're gone.
We're back. We're talking about leading pollster, Trump pollster, John McLaughlin does an excellent job. John, before we go into some of these polls and where we sit now just a week out to Election Day on all these races, Senate, House, and obviously presidential race, I want to talk about a divide that we see brewing, and it's between the Marxist Dems and the Democrats in their party, just as if the Republicans have the problem with the rhinos and the far right guys, we'll call them, in the party. And by far right, I mean people like Donald Trump, with people with good ideologies and people who care about this country. Mayor Eric Adams at the rally on Sunday, President Trump praised him and said, thank you to Eric Adams, because Eric Adams was asked before the rally, do you think Donald Trump's what did they ask him, a Nazi or whatever? They asked him if he was, whatever the hell he was.
Fascist. Yeah.
A fascist. There you go. And Adams says, no, I don't think he's a fascist. And I think it's important that he's allowed to come to New York and voice his opinion. Now, this is Mayor Eric Adams, who a lot of people believe he was indicted over speaking out against the Biden regime. Now, you look at Bob Menendez. He came out, and the guy's been a criminal his whole life. He's only gotten caught twice, and it happens to be after he came out and did something against his own party. So we've got a little bit of a trend here, but you've got now Mayor Eric Adams, and I think we're going to start seeing more Democrats who are going to speak out against their party because, John, there's only so far left you can go in this country before you literally push us off a friggin' cliff. I mean, do you see what I'm seeing that I think we'll be able to, bring some of these Democrats more to the center so that we can pass a comprehensive tax bill, that we can pass a border bill and secure this country, that Trump will be able to get things done in this next term?
Well, the key is winning the election on November 5th. And President Trump, the great thing about his candidacy is he's a foundation for these other Republicans to stand on, where we have close races for like Anthony D'Esposito, whose district went for 16 points for Joe Biden. And he won election 2 years ago as Lee Zeldin almost won the governor's race in New York State. And, Hakeem Jeffries making him a top target. But him, Mike Lawler in New York, Brandon Williams in New York, these Republicans are standing on Donald Trump's ability to
Republicans, John,
do well. Right. But you know what? But they're going to vote with Donald Trump. And the key thing is, if Trump wins the election for the presidency, he will bring a bigger majority to the House. That majority will enable him to get things done. And you're seeing it in the Senate races right now. People are focusing on, you're looking at Donald Trump, without a doubt is going to win West Virginia. So Joe Manchin decided to retire. Donald Trump's going to win Montana. So all of a sudden the Democrats are giving up on Montana, and it looks like we'll have another Republican seat there. You've got close races in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, where the Democrats are running ads, against,
Ohio too, John.
Yeah, in Ohio. Right. Bernie Moreno. There's Sherrod Brown, the Democrat, is running ads like Bob Casey's running in Pennsylvania against McCormick. He's saying, "Oh, I worked with Donald Trump." Like heck,
of course.
We'll lose jobs. We'll lose, the oil and gas jobs in Western Pennsylvania. We'll lose manufacturing jobs in these states unless Donald Trump wins the election. Because Kamala Harris, she'll, her campaign is being funded by these globalists who will, if they were, God forbid, win the election, those jobs will be bye-bye, and you'll be, it'll be Mexico or China or some other place, because her donors, that's what they want. And you got Carrie Lake, she's running close in Arizona. She could win in Arizona if Donald Trump, or when Donald Trump wins in Arizona. Things are looking good there right now. So it's a critical election that's going through November 5th, that we have to have enough of a vote that they can't all of a sudden stop counting the votes and then go and try to manufacture phony votes to say that they've won. So, that's important.
I want to go through some of these races, and some of them are shockers. Let's start with Michigan, for example. Mike Rogers against Lee Slotkin. The latest Insider Advantage poll that was put out just yesterday, they actually finished polling yesterday, has it at a statistical tie. This is Michigan. I mean, unbelievable. Mike Rogers. You go further down the list, and the Real Clear Politics on that is Slotkin plus 2.9 inside the margin of error. Ohio, Real Clear Politics has it as Sherrod Brown plus 1. Again, inside the margin of error. Rasmussen has Bernie Moreno winning that race as of right now. Pennsylvania, you've got Bob Casey and McCormick. Latest Insider Advantage poll finished yesterday, statistical tie. Let's go further down. We got Wisconsin, Tammy Baldwin, another one that completely, I think, out of left field. Emerson Polling has them at a statistical tie. Another one that I don't think anyone expect the Republicans could possibly do that. You had mentioned Montana, obviously Tim Sheehy's pulling way ahead. Nevada, I think, is probably a tough one. I tell everyone on the show I don't really trust Nevada, and you probably know better than I do. The Democrat polling up plus 9. You'd mentioned Carrie Lake. Ruben Gallego, as of right now, according to Real Clear Politics, polling up 6 points, so just a little bit outside the margin of error. Rick Scott looks to be holding his seat down in Florida. One that's interesting to me, and to be honest with you, I really don't care one way or another about this seat because I cannot stand the Republican running in this race. He's going to be just another Mitt Romney, and I'm sure you're wondering what state I'm talking about. It's none other than Maryland, which Mitch McConnell decided it would be a good idea to dump $100 million or so into this race for Larry Hogan, who, like I said, is going to be another Mitch McConnell, another Mitt Romney with Mittens leaving office. He needs a successor, and I think it's him. Is that a race that they can win in Maryland?
I haven't done any of my own polling in Maryland, so I really can't tell. But in the meantime, a lot of those other races you're talking about, if Donald Trump wins, you could see that the Republican for Senate has a really good chance of winning. And that's what the Democrats are afraid of. So, they're calling Donald Trump names. They're calling his supporters names. We're all fascists. I mean, it's just a disgrace. And it's a shame that they got the final week. That's their closing argument, is to raise that kind of level of division and vitriol in the country. But when you look at Wisconsin, there you've got Eric Hovde in a neck-and-neck race with Tammy Baldwin. She hasn't really represented Wisconsin, and there'll be over 3 million votes. And 8 years ago, we won the state by 22,000 votes. 4 years ago, we unfortunately lost it by 4,000 votes when there was a lot of stuff going on with disabled voters who weren't
technical errors, John.
No, they were permanent. They're on the permanently disabled list, and they're not disabled and getting absentee ballots. Well, we've got a lot of that has ended, and we've got to make sure that we get people out, and we've got to make sure we have an honest and fair election, that we have enough of the vote out for the Republicans. Whether it's you can have a race like 1980 where Ronald Reagan, when he won 50-43 over Jimmy Carter,
Yep.
But he brought in 55 senators with him. So for the Republican column, so you need that kind of election where Donald Trump needs to win, and then whether it's for the Senate or for the House, Republicans can win under him and vote for an agenda that actually protects Americans from these globalists and from the people that exploit the working men and women of the country.
So when you were looking at these numbers, John, I mean, your best guess on what happens, we'll start with the House. How many seats do the Republicans pick up? How many do they lose? Is it a dead heat?
Well, 2 years ago, my brother Jim, who's my polling partner in the polling firm, we represented exactly 5 Republicans who beat Democrat incumbents. They would not have had a majority without those 5. A lot of the Republicans thought they'd have a red wave. They were getting caught up in some of the national popular vote. They missed the district by district level. Our candidates ran on an agenda of hitting the Democrats on high inflation, open borders and unsecure borders, rising crime, and we hit them pretty hard. I don't know. Some of these other Republicans, they were supporting a Senate deal to increase spending by trillions. It was ridiculous. It cost us the election for the Senate, because if you're going to vote for trillions in new spending like Kamala Harris, those Republicans that did that, you cost us the election. But worse than that, you cost working class Americans their wages. In effect, it's like, okay, we're being paid the same, but inflation is costing us 20% or more at the grocery store, at the supermarket, higher gas prices, higher rents. So the Republicans in the last 2 years have pretty much gone along with Donald Trump and stood their ground, voting the right things in the House and also as minority of the Senate. That will allow them to turn the inflation issue against the Democrats, because Kamala Harris cast the deciding vote.
Right.
It's trillions of dollars inflation and inflationary spending, and the open borders. Remember that bipartisan immigration deal?
HR 2 or HR 1, what was it?
I don't know. No, that was HR 1. It was the one that Kamala Harris was talking about, bipartisan deal on immigration. That deal would have allowed 5,000 illegal immigrants in the country every day.
Yeah, that was the border bill, yeah.
Yep.
And that's the one they attacked Donald Trump over, saying, we had a border bill and you didn't support it. You called them and told them to quash it. I mean, you were letting thousands of illegals in a day, and then you shut down the border, but that doesn't account for the people who are going to come through anyway. I mean, it literally makes – John, the craziest part about that –
They weren't shutting down the border. They were legalizing it in open border.
John, the crazy part about it is that they admitted the fact that they can shut down the border at a certain point.
Yeah.
And then you say, you're like, wait, why do we need a bill to enforce the laws in this country and shut down the border? And Kamala actually goes out there and admits this. And Donald Trump's the bad guy because he called a few senators and said, kill this damn bill, because I'm going to be back there in 6 months and we'll actually get a real bill. they would have put this bill in, John, it would have been for a year or 2 years, whatever the hell it was, undoable. You couldn't do anything about it. President Trump would be 2 years into office, unable to fix anything, and it would have just been a total mess. So Republicans hold the House. Am I hearing you right?
If Trump wins, Republicans hold the House.
Okay. Let's move on to the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
It looks, as of right now, they pick up 1 or 2, maybe 3. Your thoughts?
I think 1 or 2 or 3, unless Trump wins. If Trump wins Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, we have a great shot at those Senate seats. We have a very good shot right now. West Virginia is going to be in our hands. Montana. We could bring in Ohio. You could bring in Arizona. You could bring in Nevada. But it all depends upon Donald Trump winning those states in this final weekend going up to and on election day.
Okay. All right. So I'll put the Senate race as a slight win, maybe 1 or 2. But it seems you're optimistic, which is good news. And I just want to wrap up here with the presidential race, taking a look at where we're at right now. For the first time, we're seeing President Trump ahead in the Real Clear Politics national average. He's been ahead by a little bit for the most time in the top battleground states. He's almost up a point now, which is the highest I think I've seen since Kamala entered this race. Real Clear Politics with a no toss-up map has Trump winning 312 to 226. President Trump wins Pennsylvania, I almost said Michigan, and Wisconsin, along with Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina. What's your assessment on that? Because that's a clean sweep according to them as it looks right now for those states.
Yeah, but when you're talking at a point on the average of those polls are plus or minus 3%. And those battleground states, it's even bigger than that. Most of them are like plus or minus 4 or 5. So, you got a choice. You can either keep working hard and rack up the votes by bringing your friends and family out to vote for Donald Trump, or you can become Mitt Romney, where you start cutting the pie before it's cooked, and all of a sudden, the big media and big tech deliver a win for Barack Obama. That's what happened in 2012. Donald Trump is not Mitt Romney. Yeah. And we are going to work really hard. Donald Trump is out there in the battleground states every day. He's even going into another state that the Democrats think that they have locked up right before the election in Virginia. He's holding a rally in Salem. But we've got to get our message out. You got to use the internet. You got to use X. Thank God Elon Musk has X so they can't censor us again like they did 4 years ago. We've got to tell our friends on Facebook, tell our friends on Instagram. You got to tell them they have to get out and vote. And leave no voter unturned in this election because, we're ahead going into the weekend, but you want to be ahead on election day. And when they close the polls, we want to count votes where we're ahead. So it's like I said, it's a historic election, and it's one that we can't take anything for granted because. Kamala Harris getting elected would be a disaster for the next 4 years, and we can't let that happen.
John, my background is actually in politics. I've ran political campaigns before, and I've never seen the Republicans going into Election Day this strong. And, usually I'm not too confident watching the Republicans because of the early voting. Now, I can't stand early voting. I wish it was gone and we get rid of it. But as I tell everyone on the show, John, you got to beat them at their own game. Yep. States like Nevada, you have to ballot harvest because it's legal. It's what they do. You have to beat them. I tell everyone, Dr. Oz went into Election Day down, I think, nearly 1 million votes to a Neanderthal. There's no coming out of that, John. This early voting, guys like Scott Pressler have done God's work in Pennsylvania. Elon Musk, it blows my mind to think Elon Musk, the world's smartest and richest man, is out campaigning in Pennsylvania. I've never seen the Republican Party this strong, John, and I hope it reflects at the polls, but these early voting numbers, it's like uncheatable, knock on wood, where we're at. I want to conclude with this, just to let the audience know how bad the Democrats have done and how the voters are letting them know. These are numbers of 2020 versus now, a spread. In 2020, the Dems were polling in top battleground states plus 3.8. Republicans are now polling at a point, plus 0.9, almost a point. The spread is Trump plus 4.7, 2020 to 2024. Okay. Real Clear Politics national average. In 2020, the Dems were polling at plus 7.8. Right now, the Republicans are polling at plus 0.1, a 7.9 spread from 2020. These are massive numbers, John. Here's perhaps the craziest one. Favorability rating. In 2020, it was Dems plus 19.6. 2024, 4 years later, John, Dems plus 2.6. That's a spread of Trump plus 17. The Democrats have managed to disenfranchise their voters, John, and alienate them to levels I've never seen before. I've worked for a lot of politicians, John, and they've always told me you take one side on one issue and you stay with it because you're always going to piss off 50%. John, the Democrats have managed to piss off like 75 or 80%, whether it be Gaza and Israel. Trump said it at the debate. The Jews hate you. The Palestinians hate you. How the hell do you manage? And they're on the Palestinian side. How do you manage to get yourself stuck in such a pickle? Where did they, as we conclude here, John, where did the Dems go so wrong that they've got the voters to hate them so badly?
Failure. I mean, we'll look at Americans hate failure. We don't like the fact that the Democrats, this Democrat Party, Biden and Harris surrendered Afghanistan.
Yeah.
The one thing you're not supposed to do as commander-in-chief of the United States is surrender.
Yeah.
They did it. And it's caused, you've got Iran now launching missiles at our strongest ally in the world, Israel. They're launching missiles at Iran. And it wouldn't take at Israel from Iran. It wouldn't take Iran, who's testing nuclear weapons right now, it wouldn't take them much time to get a missile aimed at Americans or military forces. So, when you think about who you want as commander-in-chief, whether it's Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, who our enemies would be most fearful of, because if they don't like us or respect us, you want them to realize that they shouldn't do what they're doing. And that's why we need Donald Trump. So it's your observations here are exactly right. But those polls, we may be on the good side of things and we may be grinding up, but we are not ahead. We have not won this race yet.
Yeah,
and we have to get people out to vote.
Yep. Donald Trump said it on Sunday night. Go into this race as we're down 1 point. I say we go into this race like we're down 7, but we're down 8 points on the fourth quarter of a game. We got to hit the touchdown and we got to get the 2-point conversion because that's what it is. Bottom of the ninth inning, we're down by 4. Bases loaded, 2 outs. You got to treat this thing like it's no joke. And I think a lot of these Democrats, John, are starting to wake up and realize. I was reading the Wall Street Journal and Breitbart this morning, and they're saying the Democrats are planning for unrest in the streets if Trump wins, which means it's not just regular people doing this. It's obviously Antifa and these professional organizations. But, John, the voters have woken up. Donald Trump went on Joe Rogan on Friday night. I think the episode has close to 40 million views. Joe Rogan averages about 11 to 12 million downloads or views per podcast episode, which is unheard of to begin with. Donald Trump nears 40 million, John. The people are awake. They're not woke. They're awake, and I think they realize what's going on. John, thanks for all you do for this great country and for Republicans and trying to make this place great again because it was once great. And I think on November 5th or 6th, 7th, 8th, or November 20th, whenever they finish counting the votes, we're going to have a great country once again. What do you think?
Well, by the way, first of all, John, I got to thank you for carrying on Lou Dobbs's legacy here, especially during this important election, because he was a special journalist, a good friend of President Trump, and you've turned out to be his most valuable disciple here. So the best to you and Debbie, and let's go win this election, and let's do it for Lou.
John, when we started the show, Lou had one thought in mind, and that just gave me the chills because I think about Lou every single day before I go to bed when I wake up in the morning. Because when I woke up in the morning when Lou was alive, I'd have a phone call waking me up in the morning, telling me to get the hell out of bed.
Right, get to work.
Every night before I went to bed, Lou and I, we'd probably speak on average 5-6 hours a day on the phone. And when we worked together at Fox, I'd be in his office probably 3-4 hours a day talking about everything from the stock market to sports. So there's nobody who misses him more than Debbie. It's probably me because he was like a brother to me. So I appreciate that, John. And we have to do this for Lou. We started the show for this reason. I had no choice but to carry it on in his honor because I love him and I miss him every single day. So, John,
let's do it.
Thanks so much for joining us today. I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
Thanks to John McLaughlin, great pollster, great American, and a great friend of this show. I got to see John over the weekend at the Trump rally. I spent a lot of time with him and his brother Jim, talking about a lot of these issues that we face in this country each and every single day. And John works it, John lives it, and he genuinely believes, we're going to fix everything when we go to these polls on November 5th, 1 week from today. Folks, it is the most important election of our lifetime. And as I said, we have to go down into this election like we're down 8 points, fourth quarter. We've got the ball with less than a minute to go, no timeouts, down by 8. We've got to hit the touchdown. We've got to kick. We've got to get the 2-point conversion, and we got to tie this thing up and ultimately push through and win this damn thing, because America relies on it. Our future relies on it. Our children's future relies on it. National security, everything relies on what happens next Tuesday. And if Donald Trump doesn't win, I fear bad things are going to happen in this country and around the world, because if you look at what has happened under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, whether it be the Afghan withdrawal, whether it be Gaza, the war in Gaza, whether it be Russia and Ukraine, a weak U.S. president around the world is no good, because people think they can do whatever they want and they get away with whatever they want. And they're absolutely right, because you look at what these people have gotten away with under this regime. So November 5th, folks, everybody you can possibly fit in your car, pick up and drive and go. Get to the voting booths, folks. Get them to vote. For every one person, take 5 with you. Our lives depend on it, and I'm not being hyperbolic about it. It's the truth. Our life really does depend on it. Thank you all for being with us today. We appreciate you joining us, and as John said, continue on Lou's legacy. We do this show every day in Lou's honor. I miss him and I love him, and I can't wait to be back with him reunited one day to finish our conversation that we had left off on. We'll see you guys right back here tomorrow for the Great America Show, where our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at John Fawcett NY, and we're now on Instagram at the Great America Show. Be sure to follow us there as well. We'll see you right back here tomorrow for the Great America Show. May God bless you. May God bless America, and may God bless the great, great, great Lou Dobbs. I love you, brother.